Somehow.
The pressure on them is the most that it has been, period. And I don't actually think the pressure for Soniqs is more than they faced at SI.
No.
But here in an international major, you bring out this map when you think you have the best chance of succeeding on it. Time and time again, teams have done this all across the regions. And I'd say of all of the maps for you to hide against TSM, this has gotta be one of the best.
Agreed.
TSM keep coming back to Theme Park against other NAL teams, and they always seem to fall short. Can they get that proverbial monkey off of their back here at Theme Park and seal the deal, be at another 2-0 and go to the semis tomorrow? TSM are the only team still left in competition who have won an international major. They won SI earlier this year. If not, if Soniqs can win the next two maps, then we would have 4 teams all vying for their very first international major championship.
That's exciting.
That would be quite exciting. Unfortunately for fans of Soniqs, you've got some waiting to do because they will need to win the next 2 maps. Villa went 7-4 to TSM. It was TSM's map choice, so it shouldn't really surprise you any that they won it. And when you get to this level of competition, quarterfinals at a major onwards, it's believed to be that you will lose your opponent's map. You gotta win the tiebreaker.
Yeah. The thing is, the tiebreaker is Soniqs' quote-unquote best map, so TSM, they would like to end things right here. And just to add another point on top of that is that if TSM can have a really dominant theme park run, that means that teams going to semis and possibly the grand finals aren't just gonna go, haha, they suck on theme park, and now all of a sudden TSM's drafting gets a lot worse. So having a confident showcase right here, right now, is actually bigger than just winning this quarterfinal.
7 rounds is all it takes for TSM to punch their ticket against BDS tomorrow. That would be an exciting affair. BDS defeating Wolves earlier on in the day. On the other side of the bracket, W7M and Liquid will do battle. Those teams have played each other just a couple. They've played each other just a couple times. Liquid, seemingly the better team in those battles they've had before. Liquid have made it to a major final internationally. W7M have not. And for many people at the start of the year, this was W7M's year. Be able to accomplish in their matchup tomorrow. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though, because we've got a game to play. TSM first pick on round number 1, and they will add a second to it. Grixer and Rexen impotent on their entry, and TSM finds themselves 5v3 with 2 minutes left in the round.
Every single Siege player who's played Theme Park knows how difficult it is to attack on this map. Clearing the map, roaming, getting the breach, all in 3 minutes. Now imagine how hard it is in your ranked or casual game, and then multiply by like 3 times, because it's even more difficult at this level of play where teams do not tend to make a lot of mistakes. It is so hard for Soniqs to get a leg to stand on, and it shows in the first minute.
TSM have 2 players up above over by Cash. This is a throne defense down below. Half of the round eclipsed. Soniqs have only 2 drones available to their name, but damned if they do, damned if they don't. They don't need one to find Merc. It's the first kill for SQ. Snake is looking in the wrong direction, by the way, but he'll hear the DMR from Gunner, and Snake will reposition. You can hold the parts of this map off-site for as long as you want, waste as much time as is humanly possible. Snake is repositioned, and Gunner is there to greet him, playing this tight corner. Bolo under fire. Snake can come to the rescue, but Bolo is likely waiting, telling him not to engage. Gunner sustaining some damage. Kansan now to come into the action as well. Pre-firing around the corner. There's Snake to take Gunner, and he manages to get both of them. Bolo dies, but it's a worthwhile sacrifice. It's all up to Geo. He's got Diffuser in his hands, 45 seconds to bring it into the bomb site, or 3 players on TSM to kill. Either or, and it's SQ to win the round, but that's a daunting task either way.
Snake and Bolo played that beautifully, just baiting him on in. And I mean, Bolo was quote-unquote stuck in the corner, and they knew that. But the thing is, he had something up his sleeve. It was an ace card, and that was Snake hiding in the corner himself, and they got 2 kills for the price of 1. Geo could go for this clutch or just sit it out on the roof, because that allows Soniqs to talk it through almost like a tactical timeout without their coach available, of course. But the members can discuss what went wrong or what would change for this next upcoming round.
Solid start for TSM as they will win the round. Timer will expire and Geo will just kill as much time as is humanly possible. Yep. It was a formality at this point. 1 round off of the total that TSM needs to move on to tomorrow. They're going to be all smiles about that one. The one thing is that While TSM might not be the most practiced team on this map in terms of success, they do have a lot of game day reps on the theme park.
Yep.
Now, because of that, it cuts both ways. One, their familiarity with the map at a high stakes level is gonna be higher. Time and time again, teams and us as casters will talk about the fact that you can scrim a map for months on end, but that is not a proper substitute for an actual game day match. So you can scrim it and have tons of success, get to game day, and ultimately fall short because preparation is great, but your opponents actually have the experience in game. The other thing too, though, is that Soniqs have no tape on them playing this matchup for TSM to study, whereas TSM have tons. So if TSM have not changed anything up about the way that they like to play this map, it's entirely possible that they will make some small adjustments as we see the rounds fall round by round. Soniqs can easily understand where TSM is going to be on defense and where they'll come from on attack and prepare for that. And even if they don't have, you know, the same game day performance that TSM has, at least you know how TSM is going to do it, and you can plan around that.
It's also why Soniqs banned out the Ying. They know TSM likes to bring this operator for that execute and for the utility. But the one thing it leaves on the board and on the table for the taking is information. Look at this. Gasher on Echo, achieved on the Valkyrie. The only thing we're missing is like an extra C4 to work with that information. But achieved, he has one of his own. So that's something. But TSM's taking a much more aggressive and front-forward game of theme park than they do domestically in the NAL. So you asked, what could TSM have changed in the meantime? Well, this is it. Extension out around the map, deployable shields, setting up these really fortified positions that key members like Merc and Bolo, who loves to play in these kinds of positions, they can utilize. And Soniqs, by breaking down the first window and door, they have a very hard problem to solve in front of them. You got a flashbang, grenade, time it, etc., which is why you see 9 grenades being brought, floors as well, and 2 frag grenades. The thing is, Bolo, 16 kills on Villa in that previous match. He has so much confidence in this position to just play with his gun skill, and this is the true test for Soniqs. Can they kill him safely, or at least break this stronghold?
Drones go in, Bolo walks.
No, he gets both!
Just Bolo things. This is a full frontal assault right now. 2 for Merc, 2 for Bolo. We're 90 seconds in, and it's Gunner in a 1v5. We've yet to see a flawless round between these two teams, but we'll see one there. 3 kills for Bolo, TSM up 2-0.
Yep, I said it. TSM's playing more front-heavy in their aggressive roam. If we watched them just 2, 3, 4 months ago in the NAL, the second Bolo gets under pressure, typically he falls back and you play the numbers game, right? So usually, if anything else, you trade 1 for 1. You take, you take those. You're like, yeah, it's fine. Now it's 4 versus 4. That favors defenders. But Bolo gets the double kill, sticks around, gets the triple, and while he gets that kill onto the balcony from the doorway, well, Merc covers the window jump and he gets 2 kills of his own as well. So TSM, they've really been studying and practicing playing more together. We don't need key members to pop off individually. We need key members to pop off individually with support from someone else, whether it's a camera or a gun. And in that particular round, it's both, because you have the Yokai, you had the Valkyrie cameras, and you had an active member of Merc right nearby if things got tough. It's a really good look. Soniqs, unironically, they're really good at this kind of playstyle as well, playing together, playing off one another, trading, etc. But they haven't shown it that well in this particular matchup against TSM, and it's always tough with domestic matchups because you know each other's playstyle really, really well from all the practices and real games. But historically speaking, just TSM the org and Soniqs the org, they've played each other 7 times domestically in the NAL. 5 of those 7 times, TSM, they won them. It was Stage 1 in 2021 and Stage 1 in 2022 where Soniqs came out the victor. But the last time they played each other, that was Stage 3, just a few months ago, or like a month and a half ago. It was TSM who came out on top, 7-3 on Bank. But it's Grixer who finds the opening kill in this matchup on Theme Park to open up round number 3.
We talked about them being a more front-forward team through these 2 rounds, and I suppose Snake wanted to see if he could have some success.
He tried as well on Villa, remember? And same result.
He got punished by Grixer, so either way, I mean, you take a gamble. It's not always going to work out. In fact, more often than not, it's going to end up failing for you. Soniqs draw first blood in round number 3.
Yep. And honestly, If you're up 2 rounds, like TSM are right now, you cannot buy yourself the risk-taking because it's not that dire. You can play overly confident, overly aggressive, and the punishment is going to be 1 death, not 1 round loss. Rexen, he's going to step up the aggression as well, like flying in through this prep room.
Oh, and he's far back of the bomb site. Geo is spotted. The shield is there. Merc does not want to tussle, so instead he runs away. What stops a Monty if you don't want to engage head on? Well, how about a Nitro Cell from below? Merc, the only kill for TSM so far. The Monty is in the bomb site, and he's going to take the engagement. Soniqs win that one in a hurry. These are fast rounds so far. We're 3 in, and SQ gets on the board.
That also wasn't the bomb site, because that was the bomb site that we just saw being played out. It was an office defense, but the entire round, all 10 members were battling it on that extended roam. And TSM, they really put everything into it. The jump up from Snake was punished, so you played the 4 versus 5. That's actually where Geo on the Monty really shines. When you have a numbers advantage, because you're playing the Monty, you don't have that 5th gun. Monty's almost always going to be having the shield up and extended. So by killing Snake early, you're playing 5 versus 4 with a Monty on the board. It's such a comfortable position to be as an attacking squad, especially on a bomb site like Office, where you can choose one side of the map and just walk on over. And you said Bargazzi 4 could be useful there to try and take down the Monty, but it was only achieved to have one in his pocket, and Geo did a good job at walking on the area of the map that you can't see 4 from below, and buying enough time for the members of TSM to rotate around the fact that Monty was pushing them, and then the members of Soniqs could pick up those kills relatively freely. Sure, Merc got 1 kill. That's not enough in this case, and it's actually probably why we're going to see Soniqs try that same approach, because in the first 2 rounds there was no Monty being shown at all. Then we saw it in the last round, number 3, and now because of that success, because how much TSM struggled against it, same exact thing got a tagger repicked by Geo and Rexen, the Amaru and the Monty, to get in somewhere on the map fast and start establishing control.
Rexen's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to fly up into break room. Remember that while all of the altercations that occurred in the previous round were around that bunk site, again, it is still locked. They cannot hold it, so they might play off site. Bolo in particular, first to fall in this round. Again, Soniqs draw first blood.
Yeah, look at the orbital lineup as well from TSM. This does not scream strong bomb site setup. It screams extended roam and flexibility. No wall denies, no impact trick. Snake used that on the roam, the second one as well, most likely. Only 1 deployable shield. That's the only bomb site fortification. You live and die off this roam.
Oh, Achieve doesn't see that position, gets spotted from the main stairs, but Merc is the backup plan. He'll let his teammate die out as the grenade goes off. He'll link arms with Snake as well. The Monty still in play for Soniqs. A 3v3 and half the round to go, keeping up with what we've seen through the first 4 rounds, which is this breakneck pace that both teams are trying to set. We are already well ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
We're trying to send all of you home early. I don't even know if the West Coast is awake at this point.
Soniqs brought 2 different kinds of attacks for this round. The front forward, that's the Amaru, and the side execution / late roam clear on the Monty. The Monty's still alive, so phase 2's there. Monty also has the hard breach.
That's what I was just going to point out. They don't have a conventional hard breacher for the Soniqs, so instead they're running with those secondary hard breach gadgets that are brought by the Monty and Geo. Can openers, as we call them. They don't have to sweat the denial because, as you pointed out, this is a roam setup from TSM. If there is going to be a direct site execute, TSM might actually play for a retake at that point. A Bandit, a Mute, a Kaid. These are wasted operators with what TSM is trying to do at the moment.
I think they missed Merc with his drone. It stopped, did not turn around. He's still staying here, didn't shoot either, so I think he knows, but they're on the bomb side. Merc has to flank.
2 players from Soniqs on board. Merc spotted, so that flank is not going to work. Instead, TSM compelled into action, but Can's in a perfect lockout. Soniqs have now picked up their 2nd round in a row, and these teams are tied at 2 apiece.
I am very curious and eager to see if Geo's gonna make the call to play Monty through these next following 2 rounds, or at the very least, play it until it gets punished and no longer works, because I honestly would. It has really changed up, A, how Soniqs is approaching their attacks, but also B, it plays perfectly into TSM's defenses. It's a roam game, that's where Monty shines. You can help gain information, take map control, and B, the bomb site is so weak, you just walk on in. The best case scenario for Soniqs last round was what happened. Monty stays alive, Nook and Amaru, they down the roam clear. You trade 2 for 2, it's a 3 versus 3 open round for everybody. Monty has secondary hop breach, could breach any wall he would like to because there's no wall denied from TSM. But they don't even need it. You just walk in, hold one angle, the teammate behind Monty fights the other angle. If you win that initial gunfight, which Soniqs did, you win the round. Merc was apparently droned out, at the very least shot down on that flank. That was the only real way for TSM to get back into the round. And again, there's no smoke for TSM. There's no yokai to counter the Monty. There's only a single C4. And some people might point towards the operator board and say, but bingo, they're playing Oryx. And sure, let's imagine for a moment that somehow, someway, Merc can get close enough to Geo to dash into him, knock him down, and someone else kills him. Not gonna happen, because Geo plays a very passive and safe Monty. He understands that his role right now is not to get a single kill, or to do anything noteworthy besides staying alive, granting information, and just applying pressure by being on the map. He doesn't have to ADS, he doesn't have to melee anybody. He is a walking drone that cannot be killed. And the other members of Soniqs, they can just be enabled, find their comfortability in knowing where the enemy is, and then take that gunfight one-on-one.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got your answer to the question here now. Gio's going to park himself on the Montagne. There has been no answer from TSM when it comes to just leveling this mountain. They've brought some more tools at their disposal, trap-heavy operators, and of course, people forget that while Oryx is primarily used for speed, you can actually dash into the Monty to get that shield away. So, I mean, there's a solution here for these shield operators. Rotero drones going in flashes as well. Bolo is in not the greatest of spots, yet he persists in this position. He sees the Monty, but is wary of somebody on the window. This is where target prioritization becomes a big deal. TSM are killing a lot of time, but Soniqs have to sort this one out. Bolo, one pick, hunted down by the Monty. Doesn't know where the other player from Soniqs is coming. Down goes the shield from Geo. SQ are summoning all of their forces to take care of these two players from TSM.
Oh. Nate almost takes out Monty, but Bolo heat guys initially, or afterwards rather, from Grixer. Bolo, honestly, staying alive for that long, getting one kill, and Geos takes so much damage from his teammate's grenade. That's not gonna look good for Soniqs. But again, there's no answer for the Monty. No C4 left, Achieved already spent his. No smoke on the board, no toxic babes. Geo can have 1 HP left, that's all he needs. No one can do any damage toward him. I mean, Snake has 1 impact grenade in pocket that could be the difference maker, but it's not likely.
Especially if Geo goes to get that diffuser down. An impact would deal substantial damage. Maybe enough for a down. Grixer watching the Monty walk in now. It's Merc to take some damage.
Oh,
Snake
boy.
sees him, and there he goes! The impact works out perfectly. Geo falls, the mountain goes down. Achieved is to die from TSM into a 3v3. Execute will need to happen, but diffuser out of reach for Soniqs at the moment. Snake still sits on it, giving information to his team. Through the soft wall, he sees the bullets whiz over his head, and there it is, Kansan to secure. Last 2 players from TSM just need to wait, but Kansan is having an absolutely incredible first half. Merc in a 1v3, the top player at the moment for TSM. He just plays keep away. Have they spotted him yet? They push from the same direction, 2 pairs of eyes, and it's Kansan again. Kansan 8 kills so far, and is a huge reason why Soniqs have been able to keep pace, and now with their 3 rounds in a row, have taken the lead away from TSM.
Yep. Now the question comes, are Soniqs expecting TSM to heavily counter Monty and therefore they go off it? Or just gonna try one more time because of how well it has worked out? The answer is a bit of both. TSM they change onto Echo, which is a counterplay to Monty, and Geo also keeps bringing out this operator. The 1 impact grenade in pocket of Snake was what they needed, and thankfully Snake was in the right position. And as Geo said in chat, caught me like a Pokemon. Yep. When you have less than 30 HP, that's what happens.
I feel like in the spirit of the new Pokemon games just being released last week, which big shout out to that timing. I downloaded it and then played it all the way over on my flight. So thanks for giving me something to do while I was suspended in the air for a prolonged period of time. Colloquially, those impacts are referred to as Pokeballs, where you throw it down and then if you get the kill, you catch them. So congratulations to TSM. They will now be playing 6v4 with Geo on their team. Ignore the score sheet because they caught Geo, of course, and Geo showing off some appreciation for that play.
Reunited once again, right? Because Geo
It's a joke for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, you just had to point out, just in case somebody's like, that's not real, is it?
I mean, you got casual viewers who watch this who might not
course.
understand that, oh, is that really the case? Why does it show Geo on the left-hand side? It's a joke.
You're going to see everyone try and Pokeball catch someone else in the enemy team now in their games, being like, why are we not playing 6v4? It's not how it works. Geo, of course, was on that TSM roster previously, so there's a big, matchup for him. TSM and Soniqs, I think, both benefited from those roster changes. It's not a grudge match of any kind whatsoever. It's a matter of both teams get on top. I mean, both teams and those members involved, they're here at the event in the quarterfinals, unfortunately against one another so early on. But the point is, they made it here. Snake with the opening kill onto Gunner. Nuke is off the board. That's a big sigh of relief for TSM because now they know cameras grants true information.
There's still 2 nades for Soniqs, so not all hope is lost. When it comes to the explosives at the hands of the attackers, Soniqs hid this map, so we didn't know what to expect with the way they would play it, but the Monty has been the biggest focal point for SQ's attacks. What'll change when they go onto defense? Because again, we don't have tape on Soniqs on this matchup, on this map. Achieved is down below, but there's somebody prone in the corner of Cafe. If Geo walks by and doesn't clear his corners, there it is! Merc is there. They don't know that he's playing in that position, and he can dash away his Oryx.
But on the side, it's a big bait from Geo. I mean, Kanston's in with Diffuser. They can actually stop planting. No one is here from TSM.
And there's been no hard destruction as well, so you're going to have to trickle in through the single doorways. Kansan, who has 8 kills to his name, phenomenal on attack, now also getting objective play under his belt. 45 seconds, 7 players still upright in this server. The 3 from Soniqs can very easily watch the remaining entry points in, and TSM will have to trickle on in. This is going to be a near impossible retake for Soniqs. They should have no problem clearing it out, and they read it so correctly. The site is free real estate. They walk in, get Diffuser down, and TSM lose every single player as they walk through the doorways to try and reclaim what they just lost.
That is probably the hardest thing to do in Rainbow Six Siege. Retaking a bomb site, even though it's 5 versus 4 or 5 versus 3, with no hard destruction being done. You have 2 doorways to choose between to walk in. There's a crossfire on both. And it looked like Geo was like kind of throwing his life away inside a cafe, but it was actually thought out from Soniqs. Geo did not have the diffuser like he did every single time previously. He walked into a cafe, he had 2 members' attention, and because the Monty is usually where Soniqs will push from, well, when they spot out the Monty, every single member they came on over trying to take him down, and you had 3 members on that maintenance window. They droned the bomb site, and when Geo walked in, they jumped in and took the bomb site instead. Retake occurred. It was not successful for TSM. 2-4. Now, Theme Park is a heavily defender-favored map. 66% overall before this match started. Armory Throne, the most successful one at that, played 13 times. And TSM, they played Throne 3 times. They only won it once. Statistically, this is a bit of a nightmare for TSM because they should have won this a lot more. They should have won a lot more rounds, rather, than they did. You can still show up on attack. It's not impossible. It's just very difficult. And Soniqs, they're bringing their own aggression. Alibi, Vigil, Lesion. Drone work's going to be hard. It makes sense for Bolo to pick the Jackal to try and narrow down where the enemies might be located at. TSM themselves, they ban Dokkaebi so frequently. They're used to playing without it, but I feel like right now they kind of wish they had it available because it would make their lives a lot easier. Merc had a hard time on attack on Villa in that previous map. Had a great defensive side, 7 and 5 to his name, but he has to go huge right now to bring TSM back into this one.
Well, first half now in the books. The tale of the tapes. Why don't we? TSM drew first blood 4 of the 6 rounds, and yet they still only got 2 for it. 2 of those rounds, even though they got the first blood, those are rounds 5 and 6, SQ stormed the bomb site, and the retakes from TSM fell short both times. Diffuser went down in round number 6. Bomb sites, 3 of them have been played. We have not seen a lab play yet on that bottom floor, Nick. That is a bit odd for the way that we tend to see these 4 bomb sites happen. First battle goes off between Soniqs. Grixer's the one. The crosshair from TSM pointed squarely at. They know they've isolated a player from Soniqs inside a cafe. Snake is able to finish off Grixer inside of Daycare. But there's two big picks from Soniqs. Add to it, they are making mincemeat of TSM at the moment. It's just Gasher and Bolo left with over a minute to go. The only one to die from Soniqs was Grixer, as we'd mentioned. Kansan breaks 10 kills. What a feat that is right now. As for TSM, Gasher and Achieved combining for just a single kill through 7 rounds. That, at this level, is unacceptably bad for a quarterfinal. And it is absolutely hurting TSM at the moment.
It is. Bit of a wasted opportunity for TSM as well, because Bolos on the Jackal did not do the entry job, only used one scan, just the second one just went out in that roam clear, and that's where the round kind of died out for them. They could not successfully pick apart the roam, and now they're paying the price. Soniqs, they've all fallen back to the bomb side. They're just waiting for something to happen. They know TSM should not have a chance for this. Do have one member roaming out of Dark Lab for a possible flank later on. Might not be needed though. TSM, they have nowhere to go in.
This might just be a formality at this point. It certainly seems like it. Gasher not able to get a kill. Swatted away. 11 for Kansan, 0 for Gasher. That is quite the opposites. And they did say opposites attract, and they were attracted just outside of the bomb site. Soniqs stretching their lead. They've won 5 rounds in a row. Is it time for TSM's timeout? Oh. The answer is yes. Right as I was saying that, TSM calling a timeout.
I mean, it makes sense. It's rather now than on match point, and rather now to get ahead of the problem than to find yourself too deep to fix it. Pojuman, a former pro player himself, should have plenty of things to say watching this. The worst thing about this, I feel like there could have been some worth in focusing on the defensive side and taking that time out to discuss how do we deal with the Monty problem, because you don't want to go 2-4 starting defense. Now you really got to pick up the pieces and do the hardest job the hardest way possible, finding 4, 5, 6 attacking rounds, depending on how we go in regulation overtime. It doesn't happen very often. Theme park attacks are incredibly difficult to pick apart, as we saw in that opening round for TSM. It wasn't even close. See what they can do. I mean, my expectations going into this was if Soniqs win Villa, it's a 2-0 for Soniqs, because they should, in my book, take theme park. Playstyle-wise, been hiding this map for a long time. TSM domestically, not the most success on it. So I'm not surprised if Soniqs did take it here, but I'm surprised at how they got there at so far. The Monty pick from Gio, I did not expect it to work that well, not 4 rounds in a row, but it did. It's a very justifiable pick for him. Now, if we go third map, if Soniqs wins here in Theme Park, it is going to be Clubhouse, which honestly is a bit of a middle ground between how Villa plays out and how Theme Park plays out. So these two teams should square off quite well there too. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need, when I say we, I speak for TSM fans, Gasher and Achieved to wake up. Achieved, you know, Sledge was banned against him map number 1, so he's still warming up this operator. L85, he hasn't used it in a bit. He was on Bok previously and Nook after that. Gasher, when you're anchoring on defense, if you go 0-4, 0-5, it means that either the bomb side doesn't work out at all, or the roam game fails exceedingly hard. And sure, the roam did fail, but Gasher has to get something going for himself. He's plays that supportive role, Echo on defense, now Floor's on attack. We gotta get a kill somewhere, at least an assist on the board. Especially against Soniqs, how aggressively they're playing.
One of the things that you bring to the table by being somebody who's played at this level before is talking from experience about what Gasher and Achieved are going through right now. Achieved in particular, Gasher is a bit understandable because he's not usually one of those, you know, the 3 points of the spear that we talk about.
Yeah.
TSM, we like to focus on Bolo, Merc, and Achieved as those 3 main weapons. Snake and Gasher often in that supporting cast. Of course, TSM have changed things up right now as you look on your screen. There's no real dedicated support amongst this 5-operator lineup. It's how they want to play it out. But what do you do midway point in this match to find your footing and get back to a point where you haven't completely lost your confidence? And does that timeout that TSM take help at all?
I mean, the timeout always helps. You can talk to your teammates, and of course, Pojo Man himself should be that defining factor, saying, Gasher, don't worry about it, buddy, etc. There's two ways to go about it. Either give Gasher the freedom to play other operators that he wants to play, or just accept the fact that he has to support and enable other operators, or other members rather, because he cannot find that success himself. Right now, he's trying his hardest to enable other members of TSM instead of becoming the enabler himself.
There's a rappel up. The same Amaru play that we saw from Soniqs will now be done by Bolo. This is the first lab defense that has appeared for us. In terms of the bomb sites, we didn't really go over the win rates here on Theme Park. Prior to today, played 4 times, 61% of all rounds won by the defense. That is a much more lopsided number than what we saw out of Villa.
Yep.
Every single bomb site has a positive win rate for the defenders. There's not a single one that gives an advantage to the attackers. Lab is actually the most overwhelmingly defender favored, but it has only 6 pick rates. 67% of those rounds have been won by the defense. It's 4 of the 6 times. Again, small sample size, so not a ton to go off of. 18 times that Armory throne room bomb has been defended, so that's something that we can talk about a little bit more. Defense working out well. Look at that. Now the kills have to come in. First 2 for Soniqs. Gasher finally gets on the board, but is removed from Geo shortly thereafter, and Geo will continue to fire back.
Oh.
And guess what gets the final kill? Soniqs run a Capcan, and it's TSM who run into it. 6 in a row for Soniqs. They're on match point.
The lab bomb side is phenomenal to defend because you can quite literally have just 1 member on the side itself and 4 people roaming scattered across the entirety of the map. Soniqs kind of did that. They started out very aggressively, fell back room by room at impact rotations. TSM, they were at the bomb site with 17 seconds left on the clock. Not enough time to, again, figure out the proper approach into the bomb site. That's also why Capcan traps, they start doing a lot of damage or even getting kills because you don't have enough time to check for them. And you're under too much pressure just rushing into those doorways. And now, you're staring down that match point situation. TSM can fight for a comeback, and they will. But it's 4 rounds in a row to go into overtime. And then you gotta play those 2 or 3 rounds out as well. It's a very, very tall task ahead of them.
Yeah, this might even be an FF Go Next situation.
I was gonna say, it might be preserve your energy, go Clubhouse, because it's gonna take a lot of mental strength to even make it through these rounds without falling apart, especially if you're a Chiefs or Gashu. I mean, you just wanna go next at this point, unless you have like a miracle round to bring things back.
Interestingly enough, Villa is the middle of the pack in terms of play rate. Theme Park is the least played map here at the Major in terms of play rate, and Clubhouse is the most played map here at the Major.
Look at that.
So we've gone from, yeah, some teams play it, to no teams play it, to every team plays it. Nothing really more to be said about whether that favors Soniqs or whether that favors TSM, but always an interesting point to be made because it's not like these two teams are going with old favorites. They're not going with old reliable. In fact, Soniqs picked this map, as we said before we got underway. For the first time, they've concealed it, and for a good reason. They are just crushing TSM. And I don't want to give all the praise to Soniqs, because I think it cuts both ways. Bolo walks in, takes out Gunner. That's the very first pick, and it's done with just a minute into action. But back to that point, TSM are also just not a good theme park team. They really aren't. They have never given us a reason to turn around and say, yeah, you know what? I give them a fair shot here.
No.
And it's very apparent, especially on these attacks, that Soniqs were able to pull off. But now, these 2 rounds in a row on defense too, showing that Soniqs were prepared for TSM, and TSM's woes with this map have not gone away. They are still fighting for their lives. Doesn't matter the opposition. And I would not be surprised to see TSM ban out Theme Park, should they prevail in this best of 3, of course, in the semis and potentially grand finals, depending on how deep of a run they end up going on, should they even make it past this quarterfinal.
Oh. I mean, the thing about Villa is that it was a 7-4 victory for TSM, but Bolo dropped 16 kills and had moments like those every single round. That's not the story right now, but Merc follows up with another. So it's, again, the duo making it work.
SQ is on the edge of greatness. Kansan picks up his doesn't kill. It's got Geo side by side, botches the smoke. Tracers go overhead. These two are in the same place. Kansan fighting for his life. He can't do anything with it. Geo swings onto Achieved, but it's Bolo to find the last target. 3 rounds for TSM. They break that 6-round streak that Soniqs were on. They need some motivation, and they need to start finding their footing. But that was the tertiary bomb site for Soniqs.
Yeah.
So SQ now get to go back to Throne, and if they lose that, and TSM continues onwards in this map, then Lab opens up, which is yet another bomb site that Soniqs won just before.
Also, I hate critiquing when teams they win a round because it's like they won, they did a good job. So what's bad about it? But let's rewind the clock to how that opening kill occurred for TSM. It was Bolo who got it. Bolo jumped in a window, unaware of the member of Soniqs roaming, and he had to win a 50-50 1-versus-1 gunfight, which he did. After that, Bolo had to drone for himself, give himself a yellow ping for the member on that staircase in the arcade, swing him 1-versus-1, and also win that 50-50 gunfight. That is how TSM built 2-man advantages. By Bolo, with no support and no help from anybody else, making what we call a hero play. Bolo was also making hero plays very successfully so previously on Villa, but with support of his team. TSM right now, they're scattered across the map a little bit too much, I would argue. They're not getting that reliable help between one another they need. And it's also likely why we see members like Gasher and Chief being 2-6 and 1-6, because they're not really able to help those injured players from the team themselves. Because ideally what happens is that Bolo goes in and someone else follows, and if Bolo falls, somebody else trades him back, you trade 1 for 1. If all goes well, the backup is there just as a precaution, but you still get that kill for free.
Bolo got spotted, opting not to shoot the default cam. Teams do that because they don't want to give their position away. If nobody's actively on the camera, then you can walk past it, and they'll say, oh, okay, nobody's come through Gong, nobody's come through Dragon. Of course, the camera's still up. It's just a small step that you'll see pros take from time to time to just try and bamboozle, confuse their opponents. Bolo gets spotted all the same, but just to explain as to why, well, why didn't Bolo shoot the cam? Knowledge for those of you that might now take that and do the same. I would like you to note that they don't always follow that rule outside. Teams sometimes just plain forget to outdoor default cams, and well, it's not worked out in their favor before.
A little bit disappointed that Soniqs didn't impact trick the water because you can absolutely do it. Geo and Kansan both have a spare impact in their pockets, but pre-fire comes through to trade 1 for 1. The bomb site, despite that wall being opened up, is still very defendable because of that throne in the middle of the room that grants enough cover for the defenders to hide behind, and Rexen took great advantage of that in that gunfight.
Well, you lose Geo, who has proven his worth time and time again. And you lose Merc, who has been the most consistent force for TSM. We talk about supporting cast. Both of these teams have a strong one, though they haven't shown it yet from TSM's side of things. At one point, they were a combined 1 kill, but now they've got 4 to their name for Gasher and Achieved. Bolo is the superstar in map number 1. Still not performing up to that same standard, but now breaking positive with his 8th kill. Grixer will look to retake, high rate of fire, softening up Achieved, but heading back towards Split. He and Kansan deep into the bomb site, and in an act of desperation, out goes an impact nade, all while the diffuser's going down. Bolo trades himself out for Grixer. The Zof will continue to bleed out on the floor, but Kansan has quite the mission ahead of him. Nice shot onto Achieved. Isolate these last 2 players. It's technically a 1v2 as Bolo is not able to do anything until he's brought back to life. But is he crawling over to one of the 2 players from TSM? Diffuser at the halfway point right now for Kansan. Pre-firing away, they know he's worked it over towards Throne. Bolo back up. He's got his secondary out. There goes the concussions. Kansan pushing up, 13 kills, and Aid goes out in front of him, 14, but he is out of time. No matter if he gets the kills here, this will just be for bragging rights. He gets them both. Kansan picks up the quad, but the timer is your god there, my friends. TSM prevail. And they've now won 2 in a row of their own. They're depriving Soniqs of a quick victory and making SQ work awfully hard for something that they will continue to sit on the edge of for the next 2 rounds.
I know Kansan had no time in that situation, but think about the mental game that plays. You're 1 versus 4, And sure, like, the time runs out, but you get all 4 kills. He perfectly read the situation, right? The stun came out, he dodged it. The nade came out, he dodged that as well. And he expected the member from TSM on that Dragon Door to swing first. Gets that kill, gets the read. Then he walks into the maintenance room and gets both kills. 1 member prone, 1 crouch slash standing up. And TSM, they might go, oh, we got the round, but it's like, you lost the 1v4. That's not a good look. And it's again Bolo getting those initial entries, opening things up. And there's one thing that happened last round that I want to point out. It was actually Gasher playing Nuke and Snake playing Thermite, which is very uncommon for TSM. And look at this, it's Snake on Thermite, and it's Gasher on Fuse? Question mark? Oh yeah, there we go, Slick. Okay, that's more like it. So, we had that story earlier, Parker, that conversation where, what do you do if you're Gasher, right? You're the support player of TSM, you can't get into it, you're not really able to enable all the members. Well, now Gasher is trying to get himself enabled and get confident and comfortable in the server. But Snake, not used to using his drones because he doesn't play a Heartbreach typically, walks out of spawn a little bit too fast, and now you're playing without your primary Heartbreach. But it's not all doomed. Because Achieved, he's a smart man, picks up a secondary Heartbreach option in the ace. This round is still playable for TSM, but they gotta do it. 4 versus 5. I mean, if anything, Gasher, he's gotta play for 2 members right now because his duo who is allowing him this space of Snake, he's out for the count.
Gasher gives his position away, and then there will be some bullet fire through the wall. To the top of the roof he goes. I do find it funny that even though they've subbed out some players, TSM still have very obvious struggles on this map. You can see what even one roster change can do to revitalize a team and increase their odds of success on a map that maybe wasn't always their strongest. And I think what this really speaks to is it's not the players, it's the overall strategy and idea of how to tackle this map. Has not been very good. It's the fundamentals, the strategic fundamentals for TSM that have caused the most issue, not some magic failure of players or their mindset. As we hit the halfway point of this round, Gasher goes down to Gunner. Soniqs, 1-6 in a row. TSM blunted that momentum by winning 2 of their own. But with these first 2 picks, SQ sits in a very comfortable spot. And now more than ever, Clubhouse is our 3rd map. Looks likely.
It does, and I think you said it very, very well. Every single map plays out differently with the fundamentals and play styles and whatnot. And the way TSM plays Rainbow Six Siege just doesn't seem to work out on Theme Park. And it comes again back to how they played the defensive side against the Monty. That's where I see their issues lie. They've done a decent job on attack. They won 2 rounds so far. And this could be a 3rd round, but again, it's looking unlikely.
3 players from Soniqs, either in split or 1 by the door. That is... Well, I mean, I guess you can have 2 off-site in that case. Primary Heartbreacher of Snake had died earlier, as you noted, but there was backup. Even if Ace is not often used as a primary Heartbreacher, you could still get that wall open if you need to. The problem is that the Selmas aren't anywhere near as big as a single exothermic charge. And that area that just got opened up by TSM happens to be where the Soniqs' attention has now become focused. Both Grixer as well as Gunner are there. Bolo finds 1. Gunner's lined up to get Bolo. Excellent read! Gunner perfect on both of them. Geo goes down to Merc, but he's the only one for TSM. If Merc cannot clutch out here, then map 3 will be where we go, and that's exactly it. Started in this round by Rexon Spawn Peak. It was the best player for SQ and Kansan to seal the deal, and we will need a 3rd map to settle this North American brawl.
Oh yeah, Theme Park almost went the way we expected in some sense here based on TSM's history on it. And Clubhouse